Oh, there we go. Hi, second grade friends. It's Mrs. Lynn again. We're here for this week's reading lesson. This is for April 20th. You should be watching this on Monday. I just wanted to say hi. Hope everybody's doing really well. Before we get into today's lesson, I just wanted to do a few announcements. I want to make sure that you guys are all reading 30 minutes a day with Reading You Should Be. A reminder that you can get on YouTube to listen and read stories. You can get onto storylineonline.net and listen to stories, and they have the words underneath where you can actually read along with them. My kids, I also sent your parents Raz Kids, which is Reading A to Z for kids, and it's set to your reading level when you get in. So there are hundreds of books on there, and you should be practicing reading. With today's lesson, you can practice books from there. You can use books from home if you have them, just so that you have them. Second announcement with iReady, make sure you're getting on at least Tuesday and Thursday for 30 minutes. There are blue lessons on the left. You should be doing those first. Those are the ones the teachers are assigning you. Blue lessons on the left first, then move to the green lessons on the right. Games have been disabled as of today. I know I can hear the groans. A lot of you are getting on and you're just getting on the games. You're not doing the lessons. So games are not on there anymore. Don't be mad. Make sure you still get on and you're doing your lessons. It's important that you are. Last announcement, Wednesdays, make sure you look for your teacher's time that you're going to be getting on Zoom to come talk to us live. So for my class, it's going to be Wednesdays at 11. I believe Miss Clapp is at 12, and I believe Miss Clothier said she is at 10:30. So stay tuned for your teacher's email on what times they're seeing you Wednesday, so that you can be there. Come with questions that you have on the lessons. You should watch my lesson on reading, Miss Clothier's on writing, and Miss Clapp's on math. You should be practicing so that when Wednesday you come, if you have questions, we can answer them then, okay? And then we'll probably do a little mini lesson with you. So that's it for my announcements. Today we are going to work on Venn diagrams together again. Now we did Venn diagrams last week, but we compared ourselves to a character. This week we're going to compare two characters in a fiction story. Remember, fiction stories are not real. They can't possibly happen in real life. Some may be realistic fiction, where it seems like it could happen in real life, but the characters are in fact not actually real. With a Venn diagram, remember this is what it looks like. It's two circles with an intersecting one in the middle. It's used to compare and contrast two things. This week we're going to compare and contrast two characters in a story. Remember, a character is a person or an animal or a talking thing in a story. It's who and what the story is about. The inner circle and the outer circles, let's talk about them real quick on the Venn diagram. So for the outer circles, those two outer guys, it's what's different about the things being compared. So what are different about them? And for the inner one, the one that's the smaller one in the middle, the inner circle is what's the same about the two things being compared. So for this week, when we do characters, you'll tell me about what's the same about the two characters being compared. You're not going to have access to my fun looking graphic organizer, but you can make this yourself by drawing two circles. And Mrs. Lynn just took a piece of paper. I drew two circles on it. Same deal, it'll work just the same way. You can put the characters' names above it that you're going to be comparing this week. I'll do an example with you, and then I'll have one for you to do after this is over. For the one in the middle, you'll tell me what's the same about the two characters. For the outside ones, you're going to try to find at least 2 or 3 things that are different about the two characters you're comparing. For the middle one, 1 or 2 things that are the same. The middle one, remember, again, is smaller because it's harder to find things that are the same about two characters being paired. It's easier to find the stuff that's different about them. So last week I read you Charlie and Lola, I really absolutely must have glasses. So I'm going to use this as my example this week to compare the two characters in the story. So I'm going to compare Lola to Minnie, and we'll talk about what's different about them and what's the same. So I already filled mine out. I have Post-its all over it hiding things, but so you can see with mine, I put the characters' names at the top. I put Lola, I put Minnie, and I'll show you how I compared them. And remember, you want them to match on both sides. When you're comparing things, you don't want to say on one side that someone's is a girl and the other one is wearing glasses. They don't match. You're talking about glasses. You want to say on one side, like, Lola does not need glasses, Minnie does need glasses. You want them to match. You don't want to have random things in there. So for my first one, I said for Lola, she does not need glasses, like we just said. And for Minnie's side, I put Minnie does need glasses. So those are two things that are different and they match. Another difference, I put Lola wears pretend glasses, if you remember from the story last week, and Minnie wears real glasses. So there's my second thing that I did. And for the last thing that's different about them, I said Lola has a brother. She does, Charlie. And Minnie does not have a brother. At least they don't tell us in the story if she does. So Lola has a brother. Minnie does not have a brother. Now for the stuff in the middle, that's the same. I found two things that were the same about them. The first thing I said, they're in the same class. If you remember, when Minnie comes in with new glasses, they're sitting in the same class when she finds that out. And for the last thing that is the same, I put, they're both girls, because they are. So that was my example, my Venn diagram. I just drew it on a piece of paper. Really simple. Now, for you guys this week, I want you to take a piece of paper, draw two circles. You're going to put two characters at the top. For this week's example, I'm going to do with you Frog and Toad are friends. I'm doing a chapter out of this book. I'm not going to read you the whole book, so we'll do one story. You can compare Frog with Toad, so the things, 2 or 3 things that are different, 1 or 2 things that are the same. If you do not want to do the example I'm about to do, again, YouTube, storylineonline.net, or you can get on, like I said, for my kids, I assigned to you reading A to Z Raz Kids. It'll be on your reading level. You're going to want to find a fiction story. So pretend you don't want nonfiction. Not this week. We'll move to that in a couple weeks. Okay, so for my story, I'm going to move you guys over a little bit so you can actually see the pages when I'm reading it to you. I think I'm going to hold the book like this week and then show you the pictures. That way, it's not as crazy looking, okay? So for this chapter, Frog and Toad, you're going to listen for things that are different as well as things that are the same about them. Okay, so this chapter is called A Lost Button. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow, big open field. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last, they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of my buttons on my jacket." "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. Here they are looking in the tall grass for his lost button. "Here's your button," cried Frog. "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button was white." Toad put the black button into his pocket. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button?" "I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button has 4 holes." Toad put the button with 2 holes into his pocket. There's a sparrow, that little bird that found one of the buttons. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the small button into his pocket. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard you were looking for a button," he said. "Here's one I just found." "That is not my button," wailed Toad. "That button is square." My button was round. Toad put the square button in his pocket. Not having much luck here with these buttons, are they? Are you listening for things that are different and the same about the 2 characters? Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," shouted Toad. "That button is thin. My button was thick." Toad put the thin button into his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "The whole world is covered with buttons and not one of them is mine." Getting frustrated. Toad ran home and slammed the door. There on the floor, he saw his white, 4-holed, big, round, thick button. "Oh," said Toad. "It was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I made for Frog." So the whole time it was sitting home in his house. Didn't even realize it. He wasn't very nice to his friend, was he? Toad took all the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box down from the shelf. Toad sewed the buttons all over his jacket. The next day, Toad gave the jacket to Frog. So there he is, making his friend a present for all the trouble he caused him, a new jacket with buttons on it. Frog thought it was absolutely beautiful. He put it on and jumped up and down with joy. None of the buttons fell off. Toad had sewed them on very well. And that's the end of that chapter. So here is what you are going to do for me. Like I said, you're going to draw 2 circles on a piece of paper to make your Venn diagram. You can write Toad's name on the top, Frog's name on the other side. I will show you the front of the book so you can spell Frog and Toad if you want to pause here. Frog is F-R-O-G. Toad is T-O-A-D. You're going to find 2 or 3 things that are different about Frog and Toad, and at least 1 or 2 things that are the same about them in the middle. If you do not want to use Frog and Toad, like I said, go on YouTube, storylineonline.net, reading A to Z, Raz Kids for my kids. Yeah, that's it for this week. So we will see you all Wednesday. Be on your best behavior. Make sure you do all the lessons today for reading, math, and writing. Check out the specials pages for art, music, and gym. Those teachers are posting stuff too. And we will see you Wednesday, okay? Love you guys. Bye.